The final day at the Nysc orientation camp was filled with excitement as corps members rushed to check their posting letters. Among them were 8 close friends: Tunde, Ada, Emeka, Aisha, Chinedu, Bisi, Daniel, and Kemi, who were overjoyed to discover they had all been posted to the same remote community called Umuochi. They laughed, took pictures, and celebrated what they believed was a rare stroke of luck. But their excitement faded when they noticed the strange reactions of others. Whenever they mentioned the name of the village, people suddenly became quiet, and an elderly camp worker whispered, "If you value your lives, obey every rule in that village." Before they could ask what he meant, he walked away in fear. As their boss left the busy highway and entered a long, lonely forest road, the friends had no idea that they were traveling toward a village with a terrifying secret, one that would change their lives forever.
After nearly 6 hours on a lonely road surrounded by thick forests, the old government bus finally rolled into Umuochi, a quiet village that looked frozen in time. The corps members immediately noticed something unusual. The streets were almost empty. The villagers spoke in hushed voices, and every house had its doors and windows tightly shut, even though the sun was still setting. An elderly village chief welcomed them politely and handed them the keys to the old teachers' quarters where they would stay. Before leaving, his warm smile vanished as he gave them a single warning. Once the church bell rings at exactly 7 p.m., no one must step outside until sunrise.
If you break this
No
rule,
matter what
the
you
village
hear,
will never see
no
you
matter
again.
who calls your name, stay indoors. If you break this rule, the village will never see you again. The corps members exchanged confused glances, assuming it was just another local superstition, unaware that before the night was over, they would hear something outside that would make them question everything they believed.
As darkness swallowed Umuochi, an unnatural silence settled over the village. Inside the old teachers' quarters, the 8 corps members tried to distract themselves by unpacking their bags, sharing jokes, and preparing a simple dinner, but the chief's warning kept replaying in their minds. Then, just after midnight, the silence was broken by a soft knock on the front door. Knock, knock, knock.
Did you hear that?
They all froze. Moments later, a familiar female voice cried from outside,
Ada,
please help me.
please
I'm
help
hurt."
me.
Ada's
I'm
face
hurt.
turned pale because the voice sounded exactly like her mother. Before anyone could react, another voice called Tunde's name, followed by another calling Emeka. It was as if someone outside knew each of them personally. Daniel cautiously moved towards the window, but Aisha quickly grabbed his arm and reminded everyone of the chief's warning. Suddenly, the knocking stopped, replaced by the sound of slow, heavy footsteps circling the house. Whatever was outside wasn't human, and it wasn't leaving. None of them slept that night, and when dawn finally broke, they discovered deep footprints surrounding the house, but leading to nowhere. The next morning, the corps members could not stop talking about the strange voices and the mysterious footprints surrounding their teachers' quarters. Hoping to convince themselves it had all been a nightmare, they walked into the village to ask questions. Instead of answers, they found fear. A crowd had gathered in the village square, where an elderly woman cried uncontrollably as villagers searched for her son, Okeke, a hard-working farmer who had gone to check his cassava farm before sunrise but never returned. His cutlass, woven basket, and slippers were found scattered along a narrow footpath leading towards the forest. Yet there was no sign of him. No blood, no footprints, and no evidence of a struggle, as if he had simply vanished into thin air. Tunde offered to help search for the missing farmer, but the villagers immediately refused, their faces filled with terror. The village chief ordered everyone to return home before evening, warning that anyone who entered the forest after sunset would never come back. As the corps members walked back to their quarters, Emeka quietly noticed a strange wooden carving tied to a tree near the forest entrance. It was covered with fresh red stains and strange ancient symbols he had never seen before. Before he could get a closer look, a cold wind swept through the trees, and a distant whisper echoed from deep inside the forest, making every one of them stop.
There is something in there.
The strange wooden carving haunted Emeka's thoughts all afternoon, and despite the village chief's warning, curiosity soon got the better of the group. Before sunset, Tunde convinced the others to follow him to the edge of the forbidden forest, promising they would not go too far inside. As they crossed the old boundary marked by faded red cloths tied to ancient trees, the atmosphere changed instantly. The air became unusually cold, birds stopped singing, and even the sound of insects disappeared. Towering trees blocked out most of the sunlight, leaving the forest covered in an eerie twilight. After walking only a few minutes, they discovered dozens of old wooden totems carved with strange faces, arranged in circles around blackened patches of earth. Some of the carvings looked so lifelike that it felt as though they were watching the visitors. Just as the corps members decided to turn back, Kemi noticed something hanging from a low tree branch. It was an old NYSC identity card, covered in dirt and spider webs. Tunde carefully picked it up and wiped away the mud, revealing the photograph of a corps member who had served in Umuochi nearly 15 years earlier. The back of the card was stained with dried blood, and beneath it, scratched into the back of the tree, were chilling words, "Don't let them hear you after dark." Before anyone could speak, a loud cracking sound echoed deeper inside the forest, followed by the unmistakable noise of heavy footsteps moving toward them through the trees. The friends stared into the darkness, their hearts pounding as something unseen drew closer with every step.
The heavy footsteps grew louder, each one echoing through the silent forest like the beat of a giant drum. Tunde signaled everyone to remain still as they shone their flashlights toward the sound, but the beams revealed nothing except rows of ancient trees and drifting mist. Then, out of the corner of Ada's eye, a tall, black shadow slipped behind a massive tree. It was far taller than any human, with unnaturally long arms that almost touched the ground. Before anyone could get a better look, it vanished. Panic spread through the group as more shadows seemed to move between the trees, always just beyond the reach of their lights. Suddenly, a deep, chilling laugh echoed from every direction.
It is coming from everywhere.
Making it impossible to tell where it was coming from. Without warning, Daniel's flashlight flickered and went out. One by one, the others began to fail until the forest was swallowed by darkness. Terrified, the corps members grabbed one another and ran toward the way they had entered, crashing through bushes and stumbling over tangled roots. As they burst out of the forest moments before sunset, they looked back and saw a single tall silhouette standing motionless at the forest's edge, watching them without moving. The moment the church bell rang in the distance, the shadow slowly retreated into the darkness of the trees. Breathless and shaken, the friends realized they had ignored the village's warnings, and whatever lived in the forbidden forest now knew exactly who they were.
What do you think happens next? Find out in part 2. Don't forget to like, subscribe to Bright TV, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter. See you in part 2, if you dare.